Welcome to your Research Business Daily Report, sponsored today and this week by Socratic Technologies. Contentious negotiations between privacy advocates and the online advertising industry over a proposed Do Not Track button on web browsers is not making hoped-for progress. The whole idea of the Do Not Track button actually began in 2010 with a suggestion from the FTC. But by this past February, the Congress and FTC had exerted sufficient pressure that a coalition of internet giants announced at the White House that they would support that Do Not Track button. Well, the browser companies may have been on board, but the advertising industry, fighting, it says, to protect the advertising ecosystem, is not falling in line. The advertising industry believes that the technology experts that they're predominantly dealing with in these negotiations are out of touch with commercial realities, and thus the advertisers are suggesting somewhat more flexible options. For example, they're willing to implement Do Not Track if it is limited to web browsers that exempt certain types of tracking. And the industry is adamant that off be the default setting for Do Not Track on all web browsers. Peter Swire, a professor of law at The Ohio State University and a former Clinton administration privacy official, has been called in to try to move the negotiations along. After taking his first look, Swire overviewed the situation as, quote, Do Not Track is a work in progress, so is the internet, end of quote. Next, we're not close to mastering the multiple challenges of big data. In fact, we may not even know what they all are at this point. But GB Group Marketing Services Director John Joyce on nmk.co.uk wrote interestingly about businesses' future big data considerations. Quote, getting the right solutions in place now is critically important for the future, end of quote, he wrote. Now, you may think that it's already overwhelming, but Joyce claims networks and databases will soon be overflowing with information, citing an IDC projection that the average enterprise will need to manage 50 times more information by 2020 than they do today. Joyce takes that to mean that companies will face a significant rise in numbers of customers, as well as an increase in the amount of data available about each one, and those data will be changing at an increasing rate. Overall, what that means is that businesses must also have fundamental cleansing processes for that information. How are we supposed to develop those? Well, there's something new for all of us to think about. Finally, Syracuse University visiting lecturer David K. Johnston wrote an op-ed in the New York Times last Wednesday about the giant telecoms, including AT&T, Verizon, and Comcast, among others. And he included in his comments their decision to hold back superfast internet service from, quote, huge parts of the United States. And he also hinted that they are looking at perhaps limiting mobile telephone service in many areas. On RBDR last week, you heard 2020 researchers Jim Bryson share his concern about the questionable economic futures facing small focus groups who reside outside major metros. Now, imagine with those economics that Jim pointed out, how much worse the agency research future could be in America's hinterlands if they have less than optimum internet and spotty mobile service. That's your Research Business Daily Report, sponsored by Socratic Technologies. Have a great research day, and please join us again tomorrow.